Imagine uncovering a sacred text that rewrites the story of creation, the patriarchs, and the divine laws, one that was hidden from most of Christianity for centuries. But first, hit like, share, and subscribe to the Land of History to fuel our growing community. What if the Bible you know is missing vital chapters about the origins of the world and God's covenant with humanity? The Book of Jubilees, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, claims to fill these gaps by revealing secret histories and deeper insights into God's plan. Yet this ancient manuscript was excluded from most Christian canons. Why was it banned? Today we dive into the mysterious Book of Jubilees, also called Little Genesis, to uncover why its 50 chapters were left out of the mainstream Bible. This text expands on Genesis, offering a cosmic view of angels, sacred time, and hidden commandments passed to humanity. It even challenges the calendar we use today, insisting that God established a holy structure of time that most have forgotten. Why did the early church reject this book? What controversial truths does it hold? Jubilees retells creation but goes further, explaining that God not only created life, but also ordained the very structure of time itself, aligning it with divine order, introducing the concept of sacred time. Unlike the common calendar, Jubilees presents a precise solar calendar governed by angels that controls the universe's cosmic cycles. This system isn't merely about marking days, it's about living in harmony with God's will. According to Jubilees, humanity was meant to follow a 364-day solar calendar divided into 4 equal seasons of 91 days each, ensuring sacred days like the Sabbath and festivals always fall on their appointed times. This perfect system, however, has been largely forgotten. While Genesis begins with Earth's creation, Jubilees reveals that angels were created on the very first day. These angels govern the universe's order, including time and seasons. The book explains that God assigned angels specific roles. Some oversee natural phenomena, like the heavens movements. Others act as messengers and guardians of divine law. This angelic governance ensures the sun, moon, and stars follow their ordained paths, maintaining cosmic order. Jubilees 2:9 emphasizes that these angels don't just watch over humanity, they control time's fabric. When humans stray from God's sacred time, chaos ensues, a recurring theme in the text. One of the most debated points in Jubilees is its insistence on a solar calendar over the lunar one adopted by many ancient cultures, including Israel. Jubilees argues the solar calendar alone aligns with God's perfect order. It describes the solar year as 364 days, split into 52 weeks of 7 days each. Each season, spring, summer, fall, and winter, contains exactly 13 weeks or 91 days. This system guarantees that Sabbaths and festivals fall on the correct days annually. Remarkably, this calendar closely resembles the Ethiopian calendar still used by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church today, which has 13 months, 12 of 30 days, plus a short 5 or 6 day month called Pagum. Could this be one of the few modern systems preserving the sacred time Jubilees describes? In contrast, the lunar calendar, with its shifting months and festivals, is seen as a corruption of divine order. Jubilees warns that lunar calendar observers disturb the seasons and make abominable days the days of testimony. Jubilees 6:37. Following the lunar calendar is not merely an error, but a form of disobedience against God's will. The book suggests that by returning to the solar calendar, humanity can realign with the divine rhythms set at creation. Jubilees reaffirms the 6-day creation narrative, but elaborates on the first Sabbath. God didn't just rest on the 7th day. He sanctified it as an eternal law for humans and angels alike. The Sabbath is the foundation of sacred time, established at creation to be observed forever. This cosmic principle governs not only the weekly cycle, but also the larger Jubilee cycles of 49 years, designed to restore harmony through rest, release, and renewal for the land, people, and angelic realm. He sanctified the seventh day and blessed it for all times as a sign of holiness for all his works. Jubilees 2:1. Thus, Jubilees reveals hidden significance behind the cycles governing all creation. The book tells us Adam was created on the sixth day, as Genesis states, but adds that God gave Adam specific commandments from the start, laws about Sabbath observance, purity, marriage, and worship. These laws, delivered by angels, formed the covenant between God and humanity. While Genesis depicts God's direct interaction with Adam, Jubilees introduces angels as mediators who teach Adam how to obey God's laws. Angels of the presence ensure Adam and Eve understand holiness, sacrifice, and moral conduct. On the sixth day of the second week, according to God's word, Adam was presented with all beasts, cattle, birds, and creatures of land and water, each according to their kinds, arranged in an orderly sequence over the days of creation. What do you think about the Book of Jubilees' vision of sacred time and angelic governance? Could reclaiming this ancient calendar restore spiritual order today? How might these hidden laws change our understanding of biblical history? If this exploration intrigued you, please comment your thoughts below. But before we journey further into these ancient revelations, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to fuel our growing community. Jubilees 3:1-2 reveals that angels taught Adam that God's laws are not merely human inventions, but part of a celestial order. These heavenly beings instructed Adam to observe God's commandments as an eternal covenant, just as they themselves abide by these laws in the divine realm. Could it be that the laws given to humanity through angels predate Moses' 10 Commandments? What wisdom might these ancient laws hold for us today? If you're intrigued by how Adam's laws compare to Moses's, share your thoughts in the comments below. Shall we explore the earliest commandments handed down since creation's dawn? After Adam and Eve's fall, Jubilees offers fresh insight into their children, Cain and Abel. While Genesis tells us Cain killed Abel, Jubilees adds depth to the aftermath. Cain's act is portrayed as the first grave violation of God's law, ushering spiritual consequences for all humanity. Though Cain is banished, Jubilees highlights that righteousness endures through Seth, Adam's third son. Seth is depicted as a righteous figure taught to uphold the angelic laws, paving the way for descendants like Noah to continue God's covenant. The familiar story of Noah and the flood gains new layers in Jubilees. Beyond survival, the focus is on the covenant God makes with Noah afterward, emphasizing purity, righteousness, and adherence to divine laws. Jubilees delves deeper into the earth's corruption before the flood, spotlighting the Nephilim, giants born from fallen angels and human women. While Genesis 6:1-4 briefly mentions the Nephilim, Jubilees expands on their role in spreading wickedness that led to the flood. Lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, like men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. Jubilees 5:2. This moral decay stemmed not only from human sin, but also from fallen angels introducing forbidden knowledge, disrupting the natural order. God's response was swift. He sent the flood to cleanse the earth, but preserved Noah and his family for their righteousness. After the flood, Jubilees reveals God's covenant with Noah included specific laws on purity and sacrifice, precursors to those later formalized in Mosaic law. Noah was instructed to observe the Sabbath and maintain the laws given to Adam concerning sacrifice and purity. This covenant marked a fresh start for humanity, underscoring the need for obedience to God's laws to avoid further judgment. The sacrificial laws, including how to offer burnt offerings and maintain bodily and spiritual purity, were already practiced by Noah. Genesis 12 introduces Abraham as God calls him to leave his homeland for Canaan. Jubilees, however, takes us deeper into Abraham's youth, painting a vivid picture of his early rejection of idolatry. Abraham's father, Terah, worshipped false gods, a detail absent in Genesis. Young Abraham challenges this, asking, "My father, tell me, what is this idol you worship?" Upon seeing it was stone, he destroyed the idols publicly and fled into the wilderness. Jubilees 11:16-17. While Genesis highlights Abraham's obedience to God's call, Jubilees portrays him as a spiritual revolutionary, boldly opposing paganism. This act of rebellion sets the stage for Abraham's role as the father of God's chosen people, who would reject idolatry and embrace divine law. One striking difference between Genesis and Jubilees is the portrayal of Abraham's observance of divine laws long before Moses. Genesis only mentions the covenant of circumcision, Genesis 17, but Jubilees presents Abraham as already observing the Sabbath, performing sacrifices, and following laws traditionally linked to Moses. According to Jubilees, these laws were handed down from angels to the patriarchs, starting with Adam. Abraham received commandments from angels and was expected to uphold them as part of his covenant with God. He was taught by angels about the heavenly tablets containing divine laws. Unlike Genesis, which frames Abraham's journey as personal faith, Jubilees situates him within a cosmic plan. Guided by angels, Abraham's adherence to laws, including the Sabbath and purity regulations, reflects a divine order governing heaven and earth. The covenant of circumcision, a pivotal moment in Abraham's story, gains greater significance in Jubilees. While Genesis depicts it as a sign of God's promise, Jubilees reveals it as part of a cosmic law inscribed on heavenly tablets. God's blueprint for creation containing laws for angels and humans alike. This law is for all the generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no passing over one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 15:25. In Genesis, the focus is on Abraham's obedience. In Jubilees, this act is woven into a vast divine framework. What are your thoughts on these angelic laws and Abraham's cosmic role? How might understanding this ancient covenant reshape our view of biblical history? If you find this fascinating, please comment and share your insights. Don't forget to stay connected and join the discussion room. Circumcision is far more than a physical mark. It symbolizes aligning oneself with the cosmic laws governing the universe. The binding of Isaac, or the Akedah, Genesis 22:1-19, is a pivotal moment where God tests Abraham's faith by asking him to sacrifice his son. Jubilees retells this story, but layers it with deeper spiritual significance. In Jubilees, the test is not solely between Abraham and God. It unfolds within a broader spiritual warfare. The angel Mastema, often identified with Satan, is said to have proposed this test to God, hoping Abraham would fail. Mastema embodies the forces of evil, continually seeking to undermine righteousness. During the binding, angels intervene, and God commands that Abraham not harm Isaac, affirming Abraham's reverence for the Lord. Jubilees 18:10. This retelling elevates the Akedah from a personal trial to a cosmic battle between good and evil. Mastema's attempt to lead Abraham astray is thwarted by divine intervention, illustrating that faithfulness triumphs over malevolent forces. Unlike Genesis, which centers on Abraham's obedience, Jubilees frames the event as part of a celestial conflict involving angelic powers. Turning to Genesis 25:23, God reveals to Rebekah that her twins, Jacob and Esau, will become heads of 2 nations, with the elder serving the younger. Jubilees expands on this prophecy, portraying it not as mere sibling rivalry, but as a divine design. Jacob is predestined to inherit the covenant and continue the line of righteousness, while Esau is destined to deviate from God's plan. Isaac and Rebekah receive divine insight into Esau's rebellious nature and his descendants' opposition to Israel, Jubilees 19:13. While Genesis narrates the struggle through Jacob's cunning and Esau's impulsiveness, Jubilees presents Jacob's inheritance of the birthright as fulfillment of a divine plan. Esau, more than just a brother, the Book of Jubilees paints the story of the patriarchs not just as family history, but as part of a grand cosmic design, where the destinies of nations and the eternal battle between good and evil unfold. While Genesis recounts the births of Jacob's 12 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, Jubilees adds a profound dimension. Their births were divinely orchestrated according to a sacred timetable. Jubilees stresses that each son was born precisely when God ordained, aligning with the sacred calendar and inscribed on the heavenly tablets, making their arrival part of God's predetermined cosmic plan. Jubilees 28:12. Unlike Genesis, which focuses on the narrative of their births, Jubilees highlights that the 12 tribes of Israel were preordained to fulfill God's purpose for the world. One pivotal moment is Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, who loses his birthright due to a grave sin. Jubilees frames this not merely as a personal failing, but as a spiritual violation of ancient divine laws, disqualifying Reuben from leadership. This spiritual consequence paves the way for Judah to rise as tribal leader and Levi to assume the priesthood, roles established by God's eternal order. Jubilees 33:10. While Genesis mentions Reuben's loss, Jubilees emphasizes its alignment with the cosmic plan, portraying Judah's ascendancy and Levi's priestly role as integral to Israel's spiritual destiny. The tribe of Levi's priesthood, exemplified by Moses and Aaron in Exodus, is presented in Jubilees as an eternal mandate, predating Mosaic law. Levi's role is not just tribal duty, but a divine appointment recorded on the heavenly tablets. He is charged with leading the tribe spiritually and ensuring the observance of God's laws, bridging heaven and earth. His priesthood is part of the cosmic order, a sacred responsibility bestowed forever. This vision of divine timing and spiritual hierarchy reveals how Jubilees weaves Israel's history into a celestial framework, underscoring that nothing is accidental but part of God's perfect and eternal design. What are your thoughts on this cosmic order behind the tribes of Israel? How does knowing their births and roles were divinely timed shape your understanding of biblical history? If you find this insight compelling, please like, comment, subscribe, and share your reflections below. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share to your various communities for their views also. Thank you for watching.